Hey everyone, this is Magic Lover recording for the MTG Noob, just doing a little deck tech for some Legacy. Basically, to give you a quick preview, I consider myself a casual competitive player. I'm not ultra competitive, I'm not a pro player, no intention to be, but I'm not a pure kitchen table kind of guy. I like to do neat things, have fun, but still definitely trying to win. Just not playing what I would consider to be the best deck, but probably the best, most fun deck that I can think of at the moment. So this is one of those decks. I'll go through some of the cards in order. This is what would be considered a toolbox kind of deck where there's lots of different answers, lots of ways to find singleton answers, a silver bullet kind of deck. But it does have one overarching goal, and that is to produce lots of mana through lots of creatures, either swing lots of creatures or cast something that the opponent cannot recover from. So go through the deck and what it does. First, the mana base. It's primarily almost mono green, but I do have two white sources in here, the Temple Garden and the Caracas, just to be able to, if I have to, along with the Noble Hierarchs, to be able to hardcast Elish Norn, which can be just a one-sided wrath against creatures, against decks like goblins, little less merfolk, things like that. It can definitely, a Maverick, it can just cripple, so even if it doesn't stick on the board, it can act as a one-sided wrath. But and B, obviously, I'm not trying to hardcast him. I'm trying to cheat him out quickly from my deck with Court of Calling. But I'll get to that later. So, Temple Garden, 5 fetches, which is pretty handy just to be able to always be able to have access to a 1/1 to block a goblin lackey or something like that. A lot of basic forests. This is great just because Wasteland is not Wasteland does enough damage by attacking our cradles and temples that it's nice not to get Wasteland locked out of a game by access to lots of basic forests. And then the two main components of the deck: Deserted Temple, which acts as another way to get another cradle activation, which is 1 green mana for each creature you control, which quickly is one of the better accelerants of the game if you've got a few creatures. Tap it, use one of the mana to untap it, tap it again. So this is pretty much Cradle -1. And then a couple utility lands in the starting main deck. Maze of Ith, great for locking down a big creature. Even something as big as Emrakul. Of course, doesn't do anything about the Annihilator, so it's not a long-term plan. But something without Annihilator triggers, it's not bad. If it doesn't have Shroud. Caracas, great way to bounce legends and protect your own. And I have Yugen, a great way to tutor up your Emrakul and be able to cast them. So, not a bad setup. On the spells, 4 Fist of Ironwood. The trample does not matter. What does matter is this is a 1 colorless, 1 green spell that produces 2 creatures. That is very important for the cradle count, being able to have a 2-drop that produces 2 creatures. Very important. The trample comes in sometimes pretty handy. Of note, more often than not, I will cast this on opponent's creatures, as long as the trample doesn't matter for them either, simply because that way if they want to fizzle the spell, they've got to kill or remove their own creature to do it, to avoid giving me the 2 saplings. Living Wish, this is the real backbone of the deck. It is considered a Living Wish toolbox kind of deck. Living Wish allows you to go to your sideboard and get any land or creature. Well, pretty much all that's in the sideboard is lands and creatures, so the entire sideboard is accessible via wishes. Court of Calling, main usually finisher of the deck. Once you've got a fair amount of mana and ways to untap and abuse that mana, which I'll go into, you can usually, at instant speed, usually in combat, what's kind of fun, to go fetch something big, hopefully Emrakul, but if not, Elish Norn works fine, and put him into play and wreak havoc. Crop Rotation, the other part of the toolbox, at instant speed, sack a land and go find any land, so if you're missing any one of the components, whether it's temple or cradle, you can sack a basic forest or even a fetch land or anything to go find it. I usually try to sandbag these and wait in response to a wasteland to get them to fizzle that. Garrick is great in this deck. He's an alternate win condition. I probably win half the time by using his ultimate if they're countering or killing things and keeping me off the mana, but I've still got 4 or 5 creatures. You know, it only takes one turn to tick him up, defend him, maybe chump out a couple creatures, and then swing with the overrun effect. 3/3 and trample. So he's a great accelerant otherwise, being able to untap 2 target lands, preferably Cradle and Temple, and helps as an accelerant there. The creatures divided into 2 main categories, utility and acceleration. From the acceleration, another 2-drop that provides 2 creatures. Nest Invader, key to the deck. Scavenging Ooze, great for being able to main deck solution to shut down Reanimator, Dredge, things like that. It's a bit slow for that, but it works pretty well. Magus of the Candelabra instead of the actual Candelabra, because it is a creature, so it does add to the count itself, and has a decent enough body as a 1-drop to block things like Goblin Lackeys. Not insignificant. Noble Hierarch's just one of the great, accelerators of the game. Could imagine playing a green rampish kind of deck without him. The Exalted is not insignificant. I've won many a time by attacking with like a 5/5 acidic slime with 3 Hierarchs in play. So that can't come into play. It's also in there as a way to cast Elish Norn as an alternate hard cast. And then utility, Eternal Witness, great for being able to get back whatever's been killed or need to reuse. Metamorph for copying either their equipment, their legends, anything like that. Slime, great utility. Norn, as I already explained, and Emrakul, probably the biggest game ender in town. On to the wish board. Ulamog, just to have something extra to wish for. Another creature, so when I'm playing against like Show and Tell, I'll bring in both and have both main deck. Pretty handy, and I've been known to have Eye of Ugin in play, and then wish for Ulamog and be able to cast him with only 9 mana, since this drops the casting cost by 2. Pretty handy. In terms of the utility, so that I have access both in the main deck and the sideboard to an Acidic Slime, an Eternal Witness, a Scavenging Ooze, a Metamorph. Only out of the board do I bring in a Revoker, just for things that I'll normally name things like Jace or Elspeth with this as a way to eat more removal, because they have to get rid of this if they want to activate. Sometimes against like Storm decks, maybe you'll name Lion's Eye Diamond or Lotus Petal to try and slow them down. Against red deck wins and quick burn kind of decks, I'll bring in the Kitchen Finks, and it's not bad having access to them out of the board, but they are great to have main deck. They do usually tip the scales in your favor by providing the extra life gain. On the land side of things, we've got Boseiju, who comes in against bullish kind of decks, being able to force out your Court of Calling, which is pretty handy, or your crop rotation, so they can't be countered. Also, Bajukuba, great against anything graveyard based at instant speed with crop rotation. And then Deserted Temple and Gaia's Cradle, the 2 main parts of the deck. So if I start with one or the other, I can crop rotate for the missing piece. Maze of Ith and Tabernacle to go against creature decks, which is like if Belcher creates 16 goblins on turn 1. My turn 1 is usually setting up a wish for Tabernacle. So, with that being said, I'll record some games, but that's a quick deck tech into a fun, not tier 1, but a fun deck to play. And I'll throw some games up and give you a chance to see what it looks like in action. Thanks for watching.